Talk Show. Recorded live.
These are provisions, broadly and specifically with regards to infrastructure, that Republicans have traditionally supported broadly.
I suspect that one of the really big surges in the market for housing going forward is going to be the immigrant population.
But I don't, as a president, have the authority to go. If our national security is threatened, then you do it properly.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. And let me remind you also that moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue.
This is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
Welcome to Liberty Cap Talk Live. This is your host, Todd Andrew Barnett, and his co-host, James Landrop Jr. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Liberty Cap Talk Live. We are now on the air. I just posted a note on Facebook to let everybody know that the show is now streaming live and broadcasting. So this is a special half-hour edition of LCTL. And this is going to be a very great show today because we got a very special guest with us. But before we bring him on, I just want to remind my listeners to wear your Liberty caps. We are freeing ourselves from the control of the state. We're freeing ourselves from the control of the Republicans and Democrats. We're fighting them tooth and nail all the time, every day, no excuses. There you have it. All right, so if you have a question for Mark Edge, anytime during this half hour, you would have to make it quick, but in either case, if you have a question for him, the number is 724-444-7444. The call ID number is 91679. You just hit pound and then hit 1 to bypass the PIN number, and then hit pound again, and you're on queue, and I'll unmute you, and you can go to your questions. So, having said that, let's bring our guest on the air. He is the co-host of Free Talk Live. He is Ian Freeman's partner in crime, and they've been doing this for, well, relatively, if I'm not mistaken, I think this year is going to be 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. So this upcoming November, I think, and Mark can correct me on this, this is going to be 10 years, so it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun, and I think we're going to have some very interesting discussions all the way around. So let me give him a hand by welcoming him on. Please welcome our very good friend, Mark Edge.
Hey, Todd.
Mark, you with us?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
And you're right. It is.
Yeah.
It is 10 years in November. I'm really surprised you know that. It seems like November is.
I remember looking through the FTL archives, and it said November 2002, your first episode, your pilot episode that started. And I was just, wow. When you guys were based in Sarasota, Florida, you guys were just, starting out. You were branching out into the industry, and you guys have grown substantially over the years. But having said that, what exactly, for those listeners who aren't listening today, who are relatively new to this show, pretty much, exactly how did FTL start? What is FTL all about? And, and how are you guys doing?
Well, Free Talk Live is a nationally syndicated radio program. It's on more than 100 stations across America. We're also on 2 XM channels. We would, depending on how narrowly you define it, probably be defined as the largest pro-liberty radio show out there. If you're talking about some show like Glenn Beck or something like that, obviously we're not as big as them. So you have to, it's a narrow focus in the sense that when we use the terms liberty-oriented, but we're on more than 100 radio stations, and that's pretty darn good. It's hard to believe, 10 years, we are going up on that, and 10 years seems like a long time, and it doesn't seem like that long that I've been doing the show, but, that's how people always talk when they have these kind of retrospective interviews. Free Talk Live, we started the show, Ian, asked the manager of the station for which we worked, a good friend of mine, Jim Davis, if he could have the slot for a talk show, and Jim approved. I had spoken to him about it, so that I was trying to help Ian out a little bit, and Ian asked me if I would man the phones with him. So I would answer the phones, and there was another guy on with Ian at the time. So the 3 of us essentially took calls and talked to people, and yucked it up. It was much more of a kind of chucklehead show with like Howard Stern kind of thing at the time, and we just had calls wall to wall, so we ran the show a little later than we had expected to. And within 2 weeks, the general manager asked us if we would do weeknights on the station, and offered us a little pay, not much. And we did that, and that was really great. And but the station flipped formats a few months later, and we ended up on, for a while we did internet-only shows, and then we ended up on an AM station in Sarasota where we were, doing our thing for a while, and then the Janet Jackson boob incident occurred, and that was, frankly, it was a turning point for Free Talk Live. We, were concerned about the kind of show that we had done up to that point. Clear Channel was doing the if in doubt, leave it out, programming, which means that if you had, if you had any doubts about whether you should say something or not, just don't say it. Be funny without mentioning sex. It was really what it was all about. And there's only Bill Cosby can do that.
That's right. You can't even on a nationally syndicated radio show, if it's a terrestrial radio, you can't say the ultimate 7 dirty words on the air. It's like the holy sins of talk radio, because it's government licensed and government regulated and whatnot. So
indeed.
It's one of those things. It's like the political version of the King James Bible that's being shoved down your throat, and you've got to conform to it, or otherwise you're not going to last long on the radio before you know it. But
now actually our the restrictions are even higher for Free Talk Live because we're on news talk stations, which won't put up with a certain level of joking that even doesn't include the 7 words. And actually, it's more like 5, but whatever it is. I think you can. Yeah. I've heard people say tits on the radio, and
trust me, you can get away with it on this show because we're not we're not licensed, and my creed is fuck the FCC. That's how it is for me.
I'm with you. And George Carlin's 7 dirty words is really there's a bow to the cadence of it, and he wanted to use motherfucker when in fact it's just fuck with an ER on the end and mother on the front. So.
Oh man!
I don't usually use that terminology in my regular life, but I mean, if you're talking about the words, they are what they are.
They are what they are. Indeed. I think one of the biggest appeals of FTL that I've noticed over the years was, well, number one, your AMP program, which. It's very interesting that you guys offer that because I've been trying to offer something similar to that for my show, and I need to rev it up and whatnot. But what's really interesting is that you guys offer that program. And what is AMP, and how does that work?
Well, AMP's a program that we've trotted out many years ago. It was the idea of, and this is how things go on the internet, right? Like it's an idea somebody else had, but Johnson, he's a friend of the show, came up with, and he's been on the air with us many times. And it is an opportunity for listeners to support the show directly. We use the money to advertise, market, and promote. That's what the AMP stands for, Free Talk Live. We don't use it for paychecks or anything like that. We do have commercials, but people can also essentially buy our attention wholesale, and
right.
It allows a listener who believes in the ideas of liberty to support
exactly
what may be one of the very best ways to get the ideas of liberty out to people. There isn't a lot of on the ground kind of marketing of the ideas of liberty. I mean, people have blog posts, and that's awesome. And Ron Paul's hitting the masses and that kind of thing. But there are a lot of organizations out there that appeal to the more scholarly, and that's
like the Mises Institute,
yeah, those are great.
The Center for the Stateless Society, some of those organizations, and that's all well and good. That's fine if that's what you're into.
Yeah. It just costs a lot of money to keep professors, in their lifestyles, whereas, Free Talk Live, it's two guys who do a show that's aimed at sort of the everyman.
Right. I guess one of the things that, like I said, I think what you guys have done is, because of this AMP program, it's very voluntary. Whereas, I tried, Larry Elder's, recent program a while back. I got a 3-month subscription to his show just to check it out, just to see, just to test the waters, just to see what his show. My God, Mark. I mean, the guy is no longer the libertarian that he used to be. When he was in. Yeah, Larry Elder.
Mm-hmm.
He used to be in the libertarian camp, and now he comes off as more of a flaming neocon, praising the virtues of the Republican Party, and going into all this nonsense. And but he charges like $4.95 straight up. If you want to listen to my show, the whole show, you got to pay $4.95 a month. Well, that's fine, but I choose not to. I choose to, listen to your podcast for free if I choose to. But since you guys are doing such a great job, if I want to donate, $5 a month, $10 a month, $25 a month to your show, it works out beautifully, no matter what.
Appreciate that. And, we do make the podcast available for free for everybody. They can get the whole show. They don't get a portion of the show or anything like that. This is just, it's just for people that want to support the ideas of liberty and want to, get us out there farther and wider. The more money we get, the, more opportunities we have to spread the message to, different folks in different ways. We do advertising on the internet. We, market to radio stations and that kind of thing.
Right. Now, what I've noticed over the years, Free Talk Live, even from behind the scenes, you guys have been appearing at events like Pork Fest and Liberty Forum, and you guys have actually done a lot of, on the side, you and Ian, mainly Ian, doing a lot of civil disobedience work.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, for a time, Ian was in prison. You were basically taking over the reins of the show.
Yep.
How is that going for you?
Well, I got to say, it was very frustrating for me. I like doing the show with two guys. It's, there's a good flow to it. I think the show is better with the two of us on it than it is with either one of us, just one of us on it. And I really wanted that to. I really want him to be on. He feels, morally compelled to do the things that he feels he's going to do, and I sincerely hope it doesn't result in him doing some really long stint. But if that's the case, then, we soldier on. I provide the best show I can provide to people and bring on the best substitutes and proxies that I can for Ian. And when we do the show.
I've noticed that Free Talk Live has done some, I guess you could say, some sort of spin-offs over the years to some varying degree, like She Talk Live. I know that the show has expanded since then to Sundays. That's got to be a boon for you guys, more or
Sunday
less.
Show?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Sunday shows, we basically saw an opening in the marketplace for a show to be on live on Sunday evenings. I'm sad to say that the consolidation of radio in the industry throughout the past decade has resulted in essentially no live programming on in the evenings on weekends. There are, I believe, 3 live programs, including Free Talk Live, on from the hours of 7 to midnight on Saturdays and Sundays. And during those 10 hours, 5 of those hours, I believe, are there's only one of those programs are on. So I mean, it's very, very, very wide open. So we saw an opportunity to hop into that marketplace and provide live programming, and we do that. And we've had we've brought on stations on board as a result, and I'm certain that we're going to continue.
Right. I wanted to get into something with you, which I think is very important. Last night we were watching I know you guys are going to probably cover this on tonight's show.
Sure.
About the caucus.
Yep.
And, the Iowa caucus, on one hand, I have to say that I wasn't really surprised with what was going down. I mean, it would have been great if Ron Paul had won in first place.
Sure.
I mean, on some moral and political level, it would have been great. But I think what really has worked in his favor is that, even though Rick Santorum and Mitt Romney were sharing first place to some varying degree, even though it was Santorum who would actually come out in the end as the winner. But yeah, so what?
Did Santorum come out? I thought it was Romney was up by 8 votes. That's
what
I heard.
You know what? It might have been 8 votes, but
who knows?
There's really, I mean, they're actually making out to be like it's some great thing that Romney won because they didn't want Ron Paul to win, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But this, I was talking to Bill Westmiller, and by the way, he says hi. By the way,
Bill's a great man.
Yeah, he is. And we were talking about this, and he was telling me, Ron has come out in second place in actuality, and Romney and Santorum pretty much are sharing the first place spot, pretty much, all things considered. So
I think, like the perspective of the media, that kind of thing?
Yeah, irrespective of what CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News says. And I think this is going to play out very well. What is your take on the whole Iowa caucus, and what do you think?
Well, I think that what it did was kill Gingrich's campaign, and Perry's and Bachman's, and so I mean, essentially you have a 3, perhaps 4-person race at this point. Huntsman isn't out, but he will be after next week. I mean, it's like I can't imagine, having nothing in the Iowa caucus and then showing up in New Hampshire and getting, say, 10%, and that really boosting your campaign. I could be wrong. These are all predictions, and frankly, this is the primary that the predictions forgot. I mean, everybody's been wrong so many times that it's pathetic. But I mean, it's interesting to see. I think Santorum can't do anything in New Hampshire. When you're talking about Iowa, you can get 20% of the people there to respect your basically he's a fiscal moderate and a social conservative, which to me is no better than Bush, and I think that in Iowa that'll play, but in New Hampshire it won't. And right. I think that essentially at this point it's only Romney and Paul. That's how I see it. How is that going to result? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think that there's a lot of dedicated people working in the Paul campaign. They're getting delegates in there. With the change in the Republican primary being one of a situation where it's not winner take all anymore.
Right.
I think that may very well play into Paul's hands. I don't know. I mean, I think that essentially you just have a Romney-Paul race now, and the rest are zombies that have yet to be killed off.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because Romney comes off as that social conservative on camera, but behind the scenes, he's very much, and this was even posited by the gang at LouRockwell.com, that, he's pro-abortion, he's got this liberal spending record, he's got, but then again, how do you define liberal these days? It's more or less a statist spending record.
You're right.
And of course, this whole nonsense that he's this challenger who actually could somehow get the GOP nomination is like some form of erotic fantasy that even some Republicans have, and it's not going to happen, not by a long shot. Yeah.
You don't think Romney's going to get the nomination?
I don't. He's not popular nationally. I mean, he may have
He's
been
not popular. That much is true. But I mean, we've in politics, one tends to vote for the lesser of two evils, and I wonder what Republicans will do with Romney. I mean, they have if there's just a choice between Paul and Romney, what will people that do that truly support fiscal conservative policies? I mean, they'll have a very difficult time. It'll be difficult for many Republicans to swallow Ron Paul's foreign policy ideas, but I think Ron Paul is the better one to go against Obama. But I don't know. I mean, I have a difficult time making predictions.
Well, I'm not very good at making predictions myself. However, having said that, if Romney or Santorum gets the nomination, and it looks like it could swing that way, and Ron Paul could finish out being the loser in this, this is nothing more than a re-energized support for Obama, because let's face it, Romney, even if he gets the nomination, his credibility is shit as far as I'm concerned. It's, he was for universal health care in his state, and how is he going to measure that up against Obama's federal health care system?
Modeled
which
after
is
his own.
Modeled after his own, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the big problem right there. So I think, and I was even talking about this to, I was actually talking about this with Karen Kwiatkowski from LouRockwell.com, and she thinks that this is all, some sort of a plot, by the Republicans to make sure that Obama gets reelected. Because this is how, on the outside, it looks like, we hate Obama. He's a socialist. He's got this, he's anti-business, yada, yada, yada. Except Obama has done everything, in terms of, nice little guarantees and privileges for, corporatism and whatnot. He's very, very much pro-business interests and not pro-free market, which is probably the best way of putting it. What do you think of those Republicans who think that that they can actually beat Obama? Because I don't think they really stand a chance, but who knows? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. It's hard to tell at this point.
I think it's going to be a relatively close race for people like I would say Romney, and less so for Santorum. Essentially, it's the American people, a portion of the American people, a large enough portion, are sick and tired of the two sides of the same status coin option that they keep on getting offered. And I don't know what those people are going to do. I don't know if they'll vote for Gary Johnson in a, if he gets the Libertarian nod or what. I know that his popularity is relatively good. I have no idea what's going to occur as far as those two go. But I can tell you, I mean, I'm highly unimpressed with with whatever the other what the Republicans are offering. It's just more of the same to me.
Right. I remember you were saying on the show just some days ago that, 10, 15 years ago, I was ready to get the Republican tattoo. I was swallowing, your BS hook, line, and sinker.
Yep.
And you guys are living in the past. And I thought, way to go, Mark. I mean, you really stuck it to them. So... I
think a lot of people are that way. A lot of people in the Ron Paul revolution. I mean, I may have figured out the ideas of liberty slightly before those folks, but not too much. And
right.
There's a lot of people that have figured out that it's all just smoke and mirrors that they're telling you, and
right.
It's really no difference. Republicans, Democrats, they all grow the government.
Right. I love how Newt Gingrich said this on last night on the air. And this is my favorite part.
We also have to understand, and this will be a major debate with Congressman Paul, who's had a very good night, and I congratulate him on having done very well. The fact is, his views on foreign policy, I think, are stunningly dangerous for the survival of the United States.
If the United States is a government organization that makes its money off of corporate interests, especially from the military-industrial complex, Newt Gingrich is right.
I guess Ron Paul is dangerous for those folks.
Well, he certainly is.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, Newt Gingrich coming in fourth, and it was great to hear that Rick Perry and Michelle Bachmann just dropped out of the race. I mean, it was a long time coming.
I think Rick might be back in it at this point. I've heard that he's on to South Carolina. I mean, from his point of view, I don't think that he is in it in any way, shape, or form. I think that Iowa, people base their votes on this sort of concept of loss. Like, oh, what am I going to do? My candidate didn't do very well in the last election. Maybe I should switch to another one. And I don't think Perry's going to have much of a showing in South Carolina if he couldn't make much of a showing in Iowa.
I remember when I called in a few days ago, talk about the hoopla over the Ron Paul racist newsletters. I totally agreed with you, actually, by the way, that Ron Paul needs to come out and out the identity. And when I dropped the Lou Rockwell bomb on the air, that probably made a few Lou Rockwellers grumble.
I'm sure.
But but it's a question that deserves to be asked, because as far as I'm concerned, and I was even telling this to my fellow Ron Paul supporters, and I'm active in the Ron Paul campaign, as a matter of fact. I told them, look, if Ron Paul should have expected this was going to come out sooner or later. And he should have come up with some sort of a strategy, some sort of a plan as to how to deal with this entire complex issue. He should have just outed the people behind it. If Lou Rockwell is the person, then I don't think Ron Paul's ever going to do that. But I think he should have said something. He should have, gone further than just, I disavow it, I disagree with the content of the newsletter, these are the people who were behind it, and, rather than just, shove this under the rug and pretend like it never happened in the first place. That was the biggest mistake as far as I'm concerned.
Ron Paul's a very moral man, and he appears to be extraordinarily loyal. If you look at his campaign, the people that stay with him, he appears to be loyal to the people that are loyal to him, and even I think maybe even those that don't. Now, I wouldn't even propose to know if it was Lou Rockwell who wrote that stuff. If it wasn't, you'd think he's heard the rumors by now and would have come out and said, "Oh yeah, that wasn't me." But maybe he doesn't think it's worth approaching. I couldn't say. It would seem like the campaign. We were talking about the presidency of the United States of America here. Let's go ahead and just say what happened. It seems like it's worth doing that. Now, I've heard other speculation that it was different people on the staff. I mean, I've heard it was possibly Eric Dundero or whatever his name is. I mean,
please do not mention that name on this show ever again. He is banned from the show.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about anything. I don't know. It would seem like
Trust
it would.
Me, yeah. That sounds, to me, I think it's possible that Eric Dundero might have written those newsletters. I think he could have done something there because, Eric, he was fired from the campaign. He really did, his best to marginalize Ron Paul for years and the entire liberty movement. And he tried to sound very libertarian when he's nothing but a fraud, as far as I'm concerned. And I've had my dealings with this jackass. I mean, he is the worst person to deal with. And I wish he had been kicked out of the movement a long time ago, yet no one had the cojones to actually do it. But oh well. I mean, what's done is done.
Sure. I don't know anything about. I mean, I have heard little good about the gentleman. I don't know him. Haven't had any experiences with him. That's all I can say is that I've heard rumblings of these things, and I think that whoever wrote it, if they're still alive and they care about the liberty movement, that they probably should come forward and own those statements. I mean, I can own statements like that. I have made bigoted statements in my life, in the same time frame. It's been years and years, but I've done that, and I've learned new things, and I've changed my mind about stuff. And I think that people are extraordinarily forgiving when it comes to that. I think that people of color understand prejudice far better than people, just sort of in the white mainstream culture, because they deal with it, and they have been probably prejudiced themselves. We all carry prejudices. So, all you got to do is own them, say you're sorry, and then move on. Right.
One final question, and I'll let you go here. I'm just curious. What do you guys have coming up for FTL for the new year? You guys are planning anything special or new for the Liberty Forum and Pork Fest, or no?
Free Talk Live goes along as it goes along, and we're working on some larger radio stations that may come on down the line relatively soon, we hope. But at this point, nothing I can really even announce or think to announce. We'll be doing the Liberty Forum in late February. We'll be there all the days of it and available to listeners to talk to and chat with and all that good stuff. And we'll be at Pork Fest for the whole week, and we love going there and seeing our listeners. Those are, to us, these are our public events where we get to actually act like stars for for a little while. It's nice.
Right. I need to come up to Pork Fest and meet you guys, and then maybe just do like a show with you, for a segment or something, because I'll be working on a book. It's coming out on left libertarianism. Oh, yeah. And perhaps I can actually promote it on the show. Maybe you and Ian can schedule something. Who knows? I mean,
we don't schedule it for Fest, but I'll make sure that you get on.
All right. Okay. Thanks a lot, Mark. It's good to hear from you. And
nice talking to you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.